Hello, everyone, and welcome to the FanDuel Punch-Out. As you know, I'm Big Italy 42, and he is Josh Shepardson, and we are here talking about tonight's slate of action, where we got a whole bunch of pitchers that, you know, are either in really good spots or really bad spots. Not a whole hell of a lot in between. I mean, guys you expect to get crushed, and guys you expect to dominate. So I'm really excited about these pitcher. I don't know why my voice got so high right there, but I'm really excited about these pitchers tonight. I mean, there's some matchups I want to exploit and some ones that, man, it's hard to get away from Chris Archer tonight.
Yeah, I hear you. Chris Archer is by far the top pitcher on my board. Baltimore, tough matchup. We know they hammer right-handed pitchers, but Archer has just been out of this world. Improved his walk rate this year, improved his strikeout rate, huge ground ball rate, just absolutely shoving it, just dominating, and betting favor compared to most of the other pitchers tonight. So take him as a betting favor. Price point is awesome. I mean, he's going to be owned probably on, I'll venture to say, 75% of my FanDuel rosters tonight. Mixing maybe a little less than that, maybe only 70%. But we're talking like he's by far my top pitcher on FanDuel tonight.
Yeah, and I mean, at a $2,000 discount from David Price, he's at $8,900. I mean, he will absolutely be on every single one of my cash game lineups, and if he is not on some guys I play in head-to-head, thank you for the money. Because, I mean,
yeah,
a lot of people that are paying down, I mean, sometimes there's just such an obvious play, and you got to play that guy in your cash games tonight. So, for me, it's Chris Archer. I mean, if you think I'm wrong, please, by all means, find me on Twitter and tell me who you're playing your cash games. Then also let me know what your screen name is so I can play you, because it's got to be Chris Archer tonight. Other great options, as everyone knows, I love Colin McHugh. He's at $8,400 tonight. Hasn't pitched great over his past two games, but I mean, his walk rates are down. His big strikeout game came against a team that doesn't strike out in Oakland. Now he gets Seattle tonight. I mean, still 23% strikeout rate, 4% walk rate, 54.8% ground ball rate. Has not allowed a home run, knock on wood, this year. So, I mean, for me, I'm not going to say option 1B, but I'll say option B tonight.
Yeah, I like McHugh a great deal more in GPPs because there's only the $500 difference. I'm going to pay up for my preferred arm in cash games. I'm not really going to get extra wiggle room for bats. So McHugh is my my number 3 pitcher today, but not by a wide margin. I do like him quite a bit. As you pointed out, really nice strikeout rate this year for him. The Mariners are striking out in over 20% of their at-bats or plate appearances against right-handed pitchers, so definitely has that going for him as well. Like the ceiling a lot in GPPs. 3.5 betting total according to Pinnacle for the Mariners tonight, so not necessarily a gimme that he's gonna be great in run prevention. The Mariners do have some left-handed batsmen at Maid Park, so there are a little bit more caveats with him than with Archer, I believe, but really like McHugh a lot. He's going to be in that other 30% mix of pitchers I use. And that third guy, the only other name that I'm looking at pitcher tonight, Brandon Morrow at home against the Rockies. Biggest knock on him is that he's oft injured. Well, he's healthy now, throwing hard, decent ground ball rate, backed by a great pitcher's park, throwing a ton of strikes, and he should be striking more batters out. Fangraphs has a swinging strike rate north of 10%, which is better than the league average. Yet he's only striking out. He's striking out less than the league average at just over 18% this year. So I'd expect that strikeout number to rise. Maybe tonight, maybe not tonight, but he's been better than that strikeout rate indicates. He's definitely a better bat misser than that. Really low total. Colorado Rockies team total is just 3 tonight. Really like Morrow, and the fact that he's opposing a left-handed pitcher and so many of those Padres are lefty mashers should net him the run support he needs to get the W. So I love Brandon Morrow. He's actually probably my preferred GPP pick because he's a full $2,000 cheaper than Archer. $6,900 leaves you so much money to spend on bats.
Yeah, and a lot of people will be scared off with the matchup against Colorado, who they've been fine against righties, but slightly above league average this year. So certainly beatable, especially on the road. And like you said, I mean, it's Petco Park, so you get a good pitcher in Petco Park against average, slightly above average team. I mean, I love that matchup. And outside of that, there's really no arms that I'm really looking at. I mean, of course, David Price is in play talent-wise, but I don't like playing. It's crazy to say, but I don't like playing pitchers against the Royals right now. I mean, they're really just not striking out. They're putting the ball in play, and I mean, even the left-handed batters in this lineup are hitting lefties hard. And David Price 352 WOBA allowed to lefties this year. So somehow that lefty-lefty matchup has not been kind to him. So
it's tough to pay 5 figures for a pitcher who is not a big betting favorite.
Yep.
Price is certainly a betting favorite tonight, but just the fact that he's facing a Royals team that puts the ball in play, limits the strikeout upside. They're hammering lefties this year, and the fact that just too much going against him to really like that price point. And the fact that he's a full $2,000 more than Chris Archer is absurd. Yep. There's no reason to make that pay up for an equally unfavorable pitching matchup, and just not a good situation. I'm fading Price tonight.
Yeah, I'm with you. The only other guy that I'm really considering here tonight for GPPs is Taijuan Walker, only because he has that big strikeout upside. And as we know, yes, they've been better over the past week or so, but Astros still striking out 24.3% of the time against righties. Walker has trouble with commands, as we know, over an 11% walk rate. And the Astros walk a solid amount at 9.4. So if he can keep the commands under control tonight, get himself 6-7. I mean, he had 8 Ks against the same team a week or so ago. So, I mean, he's got some upside, but, I mean, he's also only $1,200 less than Chris Archer. So just consider that. If that $1,200 makes a difference for you, enjoy that, because I'm still going Chris Archer. But, all right, let's move on here to catcher, where no surprise here, there's not a lot of options on tonight's slate. I mean, you got Victor Martinez, who has just not been playing well. I'm not paying his price tag, even though FanDuel made him very affordable tonight, last night, every other night. I just don't think I could pay for him. Stephen Vogt, once again, in play here for me at $3,100 against the righty. I don't think anyone in the world, not even Nick Martinez, is actually buying his fortunate start here. The guy's not striking anyone out. I mean, his walk rate's fine at 7.6%, but hasn't allowed a single home run yet this year. So I'm going to go ahead and give you the call here. Stephen Vogt takes him yard tonight.
I like it. Vogt's my top catcher, and it's by a pretty wide margin tonight. Hammering right-handed pitchers this year, hammered them last year, really validating last year's breakout at an older age. I mean, you always want to see these older players, the late bloomers, follow it up, because it's oftentimes tough to buy into. Somebody really emerging in their late 20s, early 30s, but Vogt's not only validating, but he's improving, and he has a great matchup with Martinez, who struggles mightily with left-handed batters. So I'm grabbing Vogt, $3,100. There's not a lot of options to pay down to anyway, so I like Vogt. I'm going to own him probably on 85% of my FanDuel teams. The other name I'm dropping in there, AJ Przinsky, as long as he's playing left-handed, and that's usually a really good thing when you're facing Jason Marquis. Marquis struggles mightily with left-handed batters. Przinsky's been hitting cleanup for the Braves. He's your pivot move. If you want to get off of Vogt, you can pivot down to Przinsky. I prefer Vogt slightly, but I'll get some shares of Przinsky at $2,900.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, it's rare that you get catchers hitting in good lineup spots and good matchups. Both those guys have that for you, so I'm with you. I prefer Vogt. Don't mind Przinsky. One other guy I'm going to throw out there, solid against lefties and quietly having a good season, Derek Norris. I mean, nobody's talking about this guy. 3 hits last night, batting over 300, $2,800. I mean, he's going to be a very low-owned catcher play tonight.
Apologies. Yes, Derek Norris is definitely in play at $2,800. He is also in the top 3 at the position for me tonight. I just was so enamored with clumping all of the Padres hitters together, I didn't think about them individually. But yes, Norris, fantastic play. Hammered lefties last year for the A's. Price point's $2,800. So let's revise this breakdown of percentage ownership. I'll say I'm about 60% Vogt, probably 25% Norris, and we're going to sprinkle in that last 15% on Przinsky, but it's those 3 and no one else. There's no one else that I'm looking at.
Yeah, I mean, with those guys being so cheap and so affordable, our favorite pitcher being under $9K, no reason to completely punt the position. So
yep.
I'm with you there. I mean, Derek Norris is only $600 more than minimum salary, so if you can't afford him, you're doing something wrong tonight. All right, moving over to first base, where Miguel Cabrera obviously is your top option if you can pay up $5,200. You like him. Paul Goldschmidt, also $5,200 against Scott Baker. I like him more than I like Mickey, actually. Scott Baker is just pretty awful. And then you bump down to the next tier, where it's a bunch of more elite hitters. I mean, Joey Votto, yes, it's against a lefty, but if there's a lefty that can crush lefties, still it's Joey Votto. You mentioned that stat, how he hasn't popped up in the infield against a lefty since the beginning of time, like ever in his life, pretty much. And he's $4,000. I mean, I know you get sick of hearing me say this every day, but Joey Votto is one of the best hitters at any position in the world. And I play him every single night in my cash games. And every single night, my cash games at first base outscore most people because no one plays him. So play Joey Votto.
Yep, blind drive hitting machine. Love Joey Votto tonight. Really like Adrian Gonzalez against Jeremy Hellickson at 4,400. If I on some of the rosters that I am using Brandon Morrow tonight, I will be ponying up for Paul Goldschmidt at 5,200. Yep. I think that that's the logical pairing because you're saving that $2,000 from Archer, and Goldschmidt has a extremely high ceiling tonight. He, in my mind, has the highest potential of any first baseman on the docket, based almost entirely on Scott Baker's ridiculous fly ball rate. The guy does not keep the ball on the ground, and fly balls have a tendency to find the seats at Dodger Stadium. Run suppressing ballpark, but home run amplifying ballpark. So if you're hitting the ball in the air and you're a power hitter like Paul Goldschmidt, I like your odds, and Baker's not a guy to miss bats either. So I do. I'm going to call my dong of the day here on the podcast. You'll see it on the Fantasy Baseball Cafe forums. But I'm going Paul Goldschmidt reaching the seats tonight, and I'd say by a fairly wide margin, he's my favorite in the odds of reaching the seats tonight.
Yeah, I like that. That's a great call. I mean, that matchup is just too good. I mean, we can go on all day about it. Another guy who's cheap. You already mentioned lefties against Jason Marquis. Freddie Freeman at $3,500. Yep. Swinging a real hot bat right now. He's nice and cheap. I mean, you get a borderline elite hitter at first base for that kind of price. Got to take advantage in some tournaments there also. And, I mean, going down deeper than that, there's just still some good values for those guys. I mean, you can look at Ike Davis because he's just insanely cheap at $2,300. We talk about him every time against a righty. Once again, a bad righty. If you want to buy into that .35 ERA for Nick Martinez, you go right ahead. It will not be that low come tomorrow morning.
Nope. Ike Davis. And the thing is it almost feels unnecessary to dip down into that price point because of how cheap the pitching is tonight. But let's say hypothetically you're not using Morrow. You want to go pony up on the most expensive player basically at every other position. Grab Ike Davis, and you've got yourself a steal. We've already cited that Nick Martinez is awful against left-handed batters. Get some exposure. Davis makes for a nice play.
Yep. And considering, once again, the cheap pitching, I'll be having Jose Altuve in my cash games if I can afford him. I mean, I don't know what the record is for consecutive multi-hit games, and I don't think I'm exaggerating here that he's getting close. 9 consecutive games with multi-hits. And, I mean, there's probably someone back in the 1920s or something. Maybe Babe Ruth did it a bunch of times. But I'm talking modern-day baseball at least. I mean, 9 straight games. And then his 10th game, all he did was go 1 for 5 with 3 RBIs and a stolen base. So that was a pretty damn good game, too. I know he's great against lefties, but in case you hadn't noticed, he's pretty great against righties, too. If I can afford Jose Altuve, he's a no-brainer lock for me in cash games.
Yeah, I mean, the price point isn't ideal, but the cheap pitching allows you to spend on him. Great cash games target. The second baseman that I'm really locked in on, I believe, is going to be Howie Kendrick against right-hander Jeremy Hellickson. Hellickson is really bad against right-handed batters. The same hand is split actually works out in Kendrick's favor. Kendrick, an above-average hitter against righties, is better against lefties, but because Hellickson struggles so much with same-handed hitters, Kendrick looks really good and great lineup spot still with the Dodgers, like where he's been hitting. Whether it's third or fourth, you know you're going to get a really good lineup spot out of him. And, I mean, the Dodgers should be one of the higher scoring teams on the evening, so I want to get a share of that. I'll be using Kendrick probably in a number of cash games and GPPs as well. He's going to be my most owned second baseman tonight.
Yeah, and I like that call. I mean, he's in a great spot, and for all those reasons you mentioned. And if you're going to go cheap, sometimes he has a good lineup spot, sometimes he doesn't. Once again, if you need to lefties against Marquis, Jace Peterson is minimum salary at $2,200. So if you need to punt, I mean, the guy hasn't been a tremendous hitter so far since coming up, but I mean, he's been adequate. And in a fine matchup, I mean, if he gets on base, scores a run for you, minimum salary, that's all you really need.
Yep.
All right, third base here, where it's strange to not see big options at the top. I mean, seeing my boy Todd Frazier up there at the top, and I mean, he's got okay numbers against lefties. We know Eric Stoltz pretty just god-awful against everyone, mostly against righties, so he's certainly in play. Not a guy I'm going to play in my cash games at $3,900 because he doesn't hit for a great average, but he's got the power for tournaments for you. Mike Moustakas in lefty-lefty matchup, you don't want to encourage that, but he has actually hit lefties pretty well, so if you want to go into a tournament, I won't play him in a cash game, but I don't mind him in a tournament at that price. And Then, of course, you dip down a little bit lower, and you've got Adrian Beltre against the lefty at $2,900. Yeah, as I'm making my tentative cash game lineup here, I'm going to go ahead and click him and then see what you have to say.
Yeah, I mean, Adrian Beltre at $2,900 is an absurd price point. Drew Pomeranz really struggles with right-handed batters, so I mean, you're getting a great platoon situation, favorable platoon situation where Beltre's on the positive side of it. I mean, Pomeranz really is very bad against right-handed pitchers, and Beltre's one of the best hitters in the game, period. I mean, he's not having a great start to the season, but hits lefties, hits righties, so if he ends up facing a right-handed reliever later in the game, who cares? He's fine. He's sitting in a great lineup spot, and he's under $3,000. It's absurd how cheap he is. He's by far my favorite third baseman on FanDuel because of the price point. I do like Frazier in tournaments because he does have that top-shelf power, and he is better hitting for power against lefties than righties. So if I'm chasing a homer and I'm chasing ceiling, I'm probably grabbing Frazier. But if you're looking for that high-floor cash games guy, and not to say that Beltre doesn't have a high ceiling in his own right, Adrian Beltre is your best play by far, and probably your best bargain on the day.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I mean, he was 3,100 in a similar matchup last week. I got him in. He was a disappointment. I think he went for a -1, but I mean, that's a risk you're willing to take with Beltre. And I mean, even at 2,900, I mean, you think about it, you get an elite hitter in a great spot. And yeah, I mean, sometimes he's going to disappoint, but it's not going to kill your team at 2,900 if he does, especially with a lack of third base options. One cheap guy I will mention here if he gets a nice lineup spot. Nice game again last night. Yangervis Solarte. He's $2,300. Had 2 hits and 4 RBIs last night. That's a pretty good game. He has RBIs in 3 of his last 4. So especially if he's up there near the top of that lineup, right ahead of all these lefty matchers that we're going to be getting to even more.
Yep.
I mean, he's in a great spot to score some runs tonight.
And we know Jorge De La Rosa struggles with right-handed batters, so that's a really good call if you're looking to save some money. Grab some Solarte shares, especially if he hits near the top of the order.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving on to shortstop, where I mean, more than most nights, it makes me want to throw up. Like I feel great right now physically, but I mean, just staring at these names, it's ugly. If you want to pay for Tulowitzki, you can go right ahead at 4,300. Not a route that I'm going to be taking, especially in cash games. Just hasn't been hitting, hasn't been paying off that tag. I mean, I don't expect it to come down anytime soon because he still is, by far, talent-wise, the best shortstop. But I'm looking at some cheaper guys here, depending on lineup spot. If Zach Cozart's batting second again, $2,200. You're obviously not chasing that hot streak he had. But, I mean, he had 2 hits last night, stole a base. Eric Stoltz, as we know, one of the worst hitters or pitchers on the board. Awful against righties, gives up a lot of home runs. So, if I could punt shortstop with a guy in a favorable spot, batting second, that's where I'm going tonight.
Yeah, I'll add another one that's right down in that punt price point range, and that's Andrelton Simmons at $2,300. Marquis, obviously worse against lefties than righties, but not exactly no great shakes against right-handed batters either. And Simmons should be sandwiched in between a couple of lefties and in front of another lefty that we've already touched on, hitting in front of Freeman, hitting behind Nick Markakis, and then 2 spots behind him, assuming A.J. Przinsky's in the lineup. So that's 3 left-handed batters surrounding Andrelton Simmons. If he gets on base, I like his odds of scoring a run. Could have Markakis on in front of him to drive in. So I like Simmons. I like the guys around Simmons, and that in turn really elevates his floor quite a bit. So 2,300, hard to argue with him. If I'm going to pay up, it's going to be for Marcus Semien at $3,000. Disappointed last night. Continues to hit second, though. Martinez, we know he struggles with left-handed batters. Semien should have some lefties around him in the lineup. Again, he's right-handed, but he's in that same boat as Simmons. You get your lineup mates that are able to hammer and take advantage of a pitcher struggles around you, and it elevates your floor. It gives you a greater chance of scoring runs, driving them in. So I like Semien, $3,000, not a bad price point. We keep banging the table for it, but it's cheap pitching tonight, so you can spend somewhere. And $3,000 isn't exactly an exorbitant price tag, so I don't mind grabbing Semien as another option.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you there. If I'm paying up a little bit, that's the way I'm going as well. And moving on to the outfield, dollar for dollar, if I got to pick a top play, and this is obviously price considered, Justin Upton at $3,700. I mean, click him into your lineups right now. I mean, the guy mashes lefties. Already mentioned De La Rosa bad against righties. I mean, all the factors going in his favor. I mean, all this guy did last night was go 3 for 4, 2 RBIs, 3 runs scored. Oh, he also stole 2 bases. So, I mean, he could do it all. He has disappointed in these situations before with $3,700 for arguably the best hitter in the best spot tonight. I mean, it's a no-brainer.
I don't know. It's I mean, he's definitely a no-brainer, but he might have a run for his money from his teammate at $3,700, Matt Kemp, who I also love against left-handed pitching tonight.
Yeah.
I mean, those are your two top options in the outfield, and it's not close. When you factor in price point, you factor in matchup. I mean, those two both hammer left-handed pitching, both hit tied to each other in the lineup 3-4, so you've got great run and RBI potential for both. Might as well hook the both of them and benefit from them both ripping the cover off of the baseball tonight. I love both. Their teammate Will Myers is in play for me as well, 3,500. You want these right-handed Padres bats. I know the betting total isn't terribly high tonight. That's Petco Park for you, but these guys hit left-handed pitching way too well to be ignored, and the price points are just awesome.
Yeah, I'm going to do what I can to try to get both of them in my cash game lineup as well. If I got to have one, I'm still going with Justin Upton. Slightly better numbers against lefties, but either way, I mean, I can't blame you either way that you choose to go here. I mean, it's just too great of a spot. And once again, a guy just getting no respect for his salary. I mean, Lorenzo Cain at 3,300. I know it's David Price, and I know he's one of the best hitters or best pitchers in the game. But yes, you look over his last 10 games, he has 0 home runs and 0 RBIs. But what he is doing is stealing bases. He's scoring runs. He's walking. He's hitting the ball. $3,300 for a guy with great upside and a pretty nice floor even in this matchup here. I'm a big fan of Lorenzo Cain still.
I like Lorenzo Cain. I'll give you a $3,200 name that will be rostered very heavily by me. Not off to the greatest of starts. $3,200 Jason Worth absolutely annihilates left-handed pitching. Jonathan East, not terrible against right-handed batters, so you're not getting a huge edge there. But Worth is just so good against left-handed pitching that, and he's going to hit in a favorable lineup spot, typically third for the Nats. So I really like the lineup spot, really like the matchup, really like the price. So I like him a lot. Another guy that we're talking about getting no respect, got to be in the lineup, but I'd expect he will be. We want to pick on Scott Baker a little bit more. I'm going to grab some David Peralta at $2,800 as long as he's in the lineup and hitting fifth. Not that you need to find savings, as we keep saying. There are a lot of places to pay down, but David Peralta at $2,800 looks like a steal price-wise to me.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I mean, he's in a great spot, definitely. The guy that I love to target, I know you love to target. He's nice and cheap right now. As you know, I love targeting Detroit leadoff hitters in cash games. They score a lot of runs. I mean, they steal bases. Both these guys should be Anthony Goes tonight if all goes well, and I don't see why it wouldn't be. Yes, Edinson Volquez has been fine this year, but it's still the Tigers. And I mean, Anthony Goes, if he gets on, he's probably going to score a run at $3,100. I like him a lot. I mean, you expect he's going to get on base a couple times. Great chance to score runs. Maybe he steals a base or two. I mean, I'm a big fan of his tonight. I think he's a nice high floor, not huge upside. But, I mean, he's got a nice high floor for your cash games.
Yeah, another high floor guy right there, $3,000. Nick Markakis leading off for the Braves. Left-handed, gets Jason Marquis. Lather, rinse, repeat, basically. Get your lefties in there against Marquis, and Markakis is a very affordable one. So maybe round out your double Padres outfield with a $3,000 Markakis and then fill in the rest.
Yep. One last guy I want to mention here, then I'll see if you have anyone else. Michael Kadire at $2,700. 2 homers in his last 3 games. Yes, he gets Gio Gonzalez today, but Gio hasn't exactly been great this year. Been wild with his commands, giving up a 394 WOBA to righties. So I don't mind him in some tournaments. Not a cash game play for me, but tournament, certainly.
Yeah, and Kadire very good against left-handed pitchers, so you're getting that platoon advantage there. So I like that call. Don't really have any other names. Don't see any reason to dip too much low salary there, because you just don't need to save anywhere, and it's going to be it would be very unwise to pivot too far from these top options when you can pay just $3,700 for Upton or Kemp and save elsewhere. So make sure you're spending up on some of these top flight outfielders, because I think that's the position where you're going to see your big point scorers tonight. First base obviously always loaded. We stayed on that position for a while. Maybe you stick in one of these bargain guys in the outfield so that you can afford Paul Goldschmidt at first base. But beyond that, spend on your outfielders, because the ceiling is through the roof, and we've got some high floors there as well. I mean, as high a floor as you can get in baseball. We understand that it's a volatile game. They don't get much more volatile, so we're on board there. But yeah, I love the outfield tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. That's going to wrap things up for us here. Thank you for hanging out with us. Check out all of our great content at dailyfantasycafe.com. Follow us on Twitter at DFCafe.